and you can get a hold of us that way as well.
Excellent. Please, and reserve some time for us to come on our new program, CRM Radio. Please give me a call, and I want to get you up on the same subject up on that show. It's a weekly show now, and we need to get you guys up there. Thanks a lot, Guy De La Cruz, VP of Sales at VanillaSoft, tackling the difficult problem: why sales lead management workflow can increase sales 30%. I think you showed people how to do that, Guy. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you for having me.
You've been listening to the SLMA Radio on the Funnel Radio channel. If it has to do with sales lead management or sales lead marketing, it probably starts here with the SLMA Radio Hour. For those of you new to Funnel Radio, we remind you that we offer a variety of live streaming programming every Thursday from roughly 9:30 till noon or so. Programs include Contact Marketing, Demand Gen Radio, MSP Radio, Sales Pipeline Radio, and our newest show, CRM Radio Today. Easy to find us, easy to subscribe. Just go to iTunes, Stitcher, anywhere where fine podcasts and radio shows are collected and archived. Or visit Funnel Radio channel.
Does your company need more than basic financial transactions? Are you holding your business back with your entry-level accounting software? When your business starts to grow, and it will, you'll need more security, features, and functionality. Well, let me introduce you to Gravity Software. Gravity Software's online accounting solution is written on the Microsoft CRM platform. No more islands of information. Financials and CRM are fully integrated and in the cloud. Gravity's goal is to fill the gap between entry-level accounting software like QuickBooks and complex and expensive enterprise applications. Gravity Software, simply innovative business management. Learn more at go-gravity.com.
It's time for the Talent Talk Radio Show, brought to you by People G2, a nationwide leader in background checks and employment screening solutions. People G2 gives their clients access to the best human capital management and due diligence tools available. They are dedicated to helping their clients with all of their people-related decisions. To learn more, go to www.peopleg2.com. Talent Talk centers on the topics of talent recruitment and management, leadership development, company culture, and employee engagement. These are all timely topics for CEOs, entrepreneurs, HR professionals, and business leaders. We hope that as you tune in to listen each week, whether to the live broadcast or to the podcast on iTunes or iHeartRadio, that you hear something you can take away that will help you grow and impact your career in a positive way. And now, here's the host of the Talent Talk Radio Show, the founder and CEO of People G2, Chris Dyer.
Good afternoon, and thank you for joining me here on Talent Talk. I have a very special show for you, all of our listeners here today. We're excited about. We've got one guest who we'll announce here in just a moment. And, kind of the way the show works is I have the privilege of meeting a lot of these inspiring leaders all the time at different events, at conferences, or LinkedIn, or wherever I kind of run across some of these inspiring people. And what we've done is just put this show together in order for you to listen to our dialogue and hopefully, pick up something that will impact your own career in a positive way. As these different topics are happening each week, there seems to be something new in HR or in employee engagement or talent management that everyone's talking about. So we hope to kind of bring that to you here each week and be as timely as we can. The Talent Talk Radio Show happens here Tuesdays at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And we also have most of our actual listeners come in through the podcast on either iTunes or iHeartRadio. And we have over 280,000 of you that tuned in last week and downloaded one of our podcasts. So big thank you to everyone who's doing that, who's sharing it with their network, listening to the shows, whatever it may be. Really appreciate your interaction. If you have a question here for my guest today, you can submit it via Twitter. Just pop in that question. If there's space, add the @PeopleG2. But most importantly, you got to have that hashtag Talent Talk. My producer, Mike, will be monitoring the hashtag during the show. And if he sees a good question, he's going to shoot it over to me, and we'll try to work it into the show before we let our guests off the hook. But let's go ahead and get to that guest. Today, we are really privileged and excited to have Michael Arena, PhD. He's a Chief Talent Officer for General Motors Corporation. I'm sure you might have heard of them. And so, as I mentioned, he'll be here for the whole show, so we get to kind of go slow down a little bit and go deep with him. But, Michael, let's go ahead and get the introductions. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Chris. How are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. It's not too bad for a Tuesday in April. I don't know how the rest of the country is, but we finally have stopped the rain, so we're doing well. But maybe you can tell a little bit about yourself, what you're doing at General Motors, and maybe just kind of a quick update of, kind of who you are and what you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it is a beautiful day here in Detroit, and we love when we can say that. The sun is shining brightly, and again, I appreciate being on the show. So I run talent management and development for the organization, so that includes everything you would consider in that space, all of our talent management activities, employee engagement, development portfolio across the enterprise, so that includes sort of our senior leadership development portfolio and programs, along with much of our learning activity from a professional development standpoint.
So as you kind of summarize there, you're looking at everything, responsible for everything under that word talent, and from a leadership development and strategic planning level as well. So I kind of look at people like yourself, and they're usually pretty passionate about at least one or two things, sometimes a lot more than that, but maybe within that scope of your job, what really is exciting you, that you might put in that one or two things that you're passionate about category, around your work?
It'll be very hard to narrow me down to one or two things, but I guess so certainly people development and human capital strategies, and what has emerged really over the last decade, and I think the last few years. I'm really intrigued about how do we apply hard sciences to soft skills, and how do we think about with the advancements in analytics and the advancements in technology and even our ability to be able to measure human behavior, how do we apply that to the HR space? So that's absolutely an area that I'm very fascinated by. I think the other one would be, if I had to narrow it to two, would be how do we create environments for active learning and active development? So rather than sitting passively inside the classroom and using traditional forums for learning and development, how do you actually engage people in real live business challenges and create scenarios where they're driving business impact and developing at the same time? And those are two things that we spend quite a bit of time on here. In the latter, it's even in the context of applying things like design thinking, where people can learn by doing in sort of these finite times in space. So.
Well, what you're bringing up here about active development reminds me a lot about the sort of discussion that we've been having for the last couple of years about reviews. And, people are looking at, should they be doing an annual review, and how effective is that? And I think maybe what you're bringing up is for this active development, is it really effective to have people go sit in a classroom once every quarter or whatever that sequence of time is? Or is it better to try to have this more of an active scenario where the learning is occurring as a regular part of the culture and the development that's happening on a regular basis, as opposed to, hey, go sit in this classroom for a day or two, right, ignore your job, get behind in everything you're doing, and feel completely, disconnected from your work for a few days while we shove something down your throat. Is that kind of what you're relating here?
Yeah. Well, I think everything has its time and place. So, I think that the traditional sort of classroom approach, still applies in some circumstances. But I think the way we deliver it, in the doses that we deliver it in, so I think locking someone into a room when they're used to moving around, every single moment of every single day, and kind of locking them down for 3 days feels like undue punishment oftentimes. And I think what I'm suggesting is we can improve that process by finding ways to actively engage people in business challenges in that context. But there's also a way of getting them out and about solving business problems, and then doing sense making and again, design thinking types of approaches to better understand what they just did, what they learned, and most importantly, how that will shape behavior moving forward.
Right. And you also mentioned this fascination you have around that kind of science of talent and the things that are coming out from that perspective. I mean, there's a lot of great leaders right now in that space. One that really comes to mind right now for me has been Adam Grant, with a lot of the work that he's done, and many others. But it's funny for me to hear you say that, and it shouldn't be, but it's funny because we generally on this show we spent, I would say, a good part of 2016 blaming the Industrial Revolution and those that maybe were a part of it for a lot of the management problems that happen now, that people have this kind of archaic idea of what talent, how do you manage the talent that you have? You have to see them to know they're working. They need to be shuffling a paper around in order for you to think they're productive. And so from a big company like yours, it would be really easy to say, well, you guys are probably just, living in that world still as well. But obviously you're not. I mean, you guys are kind of applying some more forward thinking to what you're doing. Are there some specific things you're doing in that area, more recently that maybe might surprise people that you guys are involved in from an engagement and management standpoint of your talent?
Yeah, I mean, I think there are numerous things we could talk about. I don't view this even close to being, and we work a lot with Adam. We've worked with Adam, and I don't think he would articulate it this way either. It's not about the Industrial Revolution. It's using advanced techniques to better understand the nuance of human behavior so people can make choices. And it's not really sort of forcing anybody into a predictive model. It's really using more evidence-based approaches so that you can empower people to make choices around things. So if you, quite differently than, the old time study, sort of Frederick Taylor analyses, of the one-size-fits-all approach. I think we live in a world where there is no such thing as a one-size-fits-all approach, and we're trying to find, different approaches. And in fact, I would oftentimes say, and then I'll get specific to your question, I would also say that the days of best practices are over. We should be looking for evidence-based practices in the context of what you're operating in, and that's where I think the data helps. So we are doing that for everything from trying to help people identify what their career path should be, so that they can sort of self-nominate for a career that would be interesting to them, and we use data to help drive that, to really looking at things like engagement. So what are the key traits, and how do we evaluate that in such a way that we can change the way we work, so that people can feel more enriched in the way that they step into the work environment. So, and I can dive into lots of details on either of those.
Sure, go ahead. I mean, I think it's really fascinating, and looking at those different areas. I love that you said that era of best practices is over. I don't know what it is about those words together that has always not felt comfortable for me. It's sort of like shoving everyone in a box, or just kind of bringing everyone down to the mediocre level. There was just something uncomfortable about that term. So I like kind of what you're saying, that maybe you can expand a little bit on that.
Yeah, well, I think best practices were a substitute for, we didn't have the evidence to be able to tell us what the right approach was. Mm-hmm. So the best thing we do, and I think we've done this historically, is we go look at other organizations and we see what they're doing. And then we jump on the bandwagon and we try what they're doing and we apply it in a different context. And those best practices don't always transfer, because the world's different. So what we're trying to do is, even something like leadership, what works, and Adam's fantastic at saying this in his new book, what works in one context might not be, and you're very successful with, might not be the same approach that you can apply to a different circumstance. So we look at things like personas, leadership personas.